I'm going to tell you a story about a man who saw something terrifying in an elevator. The elevator cabin jerked violently. The already dim light flickered and faded, metal scraped somewhere above the ceiling, and the car stopped. Ethan swore under his breath and slammed his fist against the control panel. The impact rattled through the empty cabin. Another hit made the elevator sway slightly on its cables. The elevator in his apartment building had always been old. It rattled when it moved, delayed opening the doors, and carried a smell that shifted from warm plastic to something unpleasant that reminded him of a damp basement. During the 5 years Ethan lived there, the elevator had always worked. Until today. He kicked the doors with irritation, hoping someone might hear the noise. The hope felt thin. Thursday afternoon left the building quiet. Most residents worked during the day. Some people traveled during summer weeks. A few apartments stayed empty for months at a time. The building usually came alive in the evening. That meant hours of waiting. Ethan leaned toward the narrow seam between the doors and shouted into the hallway. His voice disappeared into the empty corridor. The building answered with silence. Only a faint echo drifted somewhere far below inside the elevator shaft. He turned back to the panel. The emergency call button had been gone for years. In its place remained a melted lump of plastic. Nobody ever discovered who destroyed it. Nobody bothered replacing it. Ethan pressed the melted plastic anyway. Nothing happened. He checked his pockets. Keys. A flash drive. His phone stayed at home on the kitchen counter. The plan involved a quick walk to a copy shop across the street. His college paper waited in a thin folder under his arm. 10 minutes outside, then home again. Now he stood trapped inside a silent metal box. Ethan studied the floor. Dry. The elevator was a freight car as well as a passenger elevator, large enough to stretch his legs or lie down if necessary. Waiting would be uncomfortable. Waiting remained the only option. He kicked the doors once more out of habit and slowly accepted the situation. Time passed. An hour later, Ethan sat in the corner reading his college paper under his breath. The topic covered Egyptian religion and the structure of belief systems in ancient agricultural civilizations. His voice filled the cabin quietly. Then something scratched against the doors. Ethan raised his head. The sound returned. Slow. Careful. Relief passed through him. Someone had found the elevator. He stood and moved toward the door. His voice echoed into the hallway. The hallway answered with silence. The scratching stopped. Ethan waited. Then the sound returned. This time, it came from near the floor. He crouched and looked through the narrow seam. At first, nothing appeared. Then something pale moved into the gap. The tip of a finger. Another followed. Then more. 6 long fingers slowly pushed through the opening. Ethan jumped backward instantly. The elevator swayed slightly from the sudden movement. The fingers bent and flexed in strange directions. Each joint moved in ways the eye struggled to follow. Pale skin stretched over long bones that seemed almost boneless. The fingers moved like the legs of a pale spider searching through the air. Ethan stepped forward and kicked them hard. The fingers curled immediately and slipped back through the gap. The doors closed again. Ethan rushed to the control panel and hammered the buttons. The building remained silent. A deep quiet filled every floor above and below him. He punched the wall, then kicked the door again. The cables creaked. The cabin swayed. His hands scratched across the plastic walls as if a hole might appear through sheer force. Movement behind him made him turn instantly. The fingers had returned. They pushed through the gap again. Slower this time, more patient. A full hand followed. Ethan lifted his foot and drove it into the palm. The hand grabbed his boot. The grip tightened with brutal strength. The sudden pull dragged him forward. Ethan lost balance and slammed onto the floor. Pain shot through his back and head. The hand twisted his ankle. He kicked wildly with his free foot, striking the hand again and again. The grip held. He forced the edge of his boot against the creature's fingers and shoved downward. The fingers slipped. Ethan rolled away across the floor and hit the opposite wall. The hand remained inside the door. Its fingers moved slowly again. A sharp smell spread through the cabin, something harsh and chemical. Ethan grabbed his folder and struck the hand repeatedly. The folder slammed against the pale skin again and again. The hand twitched. Finally, it withdrew through the gap. Silence returned. Moments later, the same damaged hand pushed through again. This time it tore pieces from the rubber lining around the doors, widening the opening. The gap slowly grew larger. Ethan watched with frozen focus. His hands moved automatically. Pages from the paper rolled into a tight cone, a narrow spike. The hand pushed farther inside. Ethan threw the remaining sheets across the cabin. The fingers reacted instantly toward the sound. Ethan rushed forward. The paper spike drove into the palm. The hand jerked violently. The smell grew stronger. The arm tried to pull back. The spike jammed between the doors. Then the elevator shuddered. The cables tightened. The cabin began to rise. Up. Ethan grabbed the arm. The skin felt cold and slick. Weight on the other side grew heavier. The elevator dragged something upward with it. Ethan held on with everything he had. The motor groaned above him. Then a sharp crack echoed outside. The arm tore free. Ethan fell backward as the severed limb dropped beside him. The elevator kept moving. Up. Hours passed. The cabin never stopped. Using a piece of bone from the arm as a wedge, Ethan forced the doors slightly apart. The opening revealed corridors outside. Every stop showed a different world. Walls covered with vines, hallways coated in frost, strange shapes hanging from ceilings. Creatures sometimes noticed the elevator and rushed toward the doors. Ethan closed the gap whenever that happened. The elevator continued climbing. Up. Days passed. Rain in one corridor allowed him to collect water with his shoes. Hunger forced him to improvise tools from the metal clip of his folder and his shoelaces. A small creature became food. Life inside the elevator turned into survival. One rule formed in Ethan's mind. The elevator must keep moving. Hunger could be endured. Thirst could be endured. The doors opening in the wrong place would end everything. So Ethan sat in the corner and listened to the cables carry him higher. Up, higher and farther from the world he once knew. Each time the elevator slowed near another corridor, he waited for the one hallway that mattered. His floor. His door. Until that moment arrived, the elevator had one task. Keep moving. Up. Forever up. Then one day the elevator slowed. Ethan waited. Silence. He pushed the doors slightly open. A normal hallway stood outside. White walls, old carpet. His floor. Slowly he stepped out. Apartment 407. His door. The key turned. Inside, everything looked the same. His phone still lay on the kitchen counter. Ethan closed the door behind him. Outside, somewhere in the building, the old elevator began moving again. Up.